Childhood Development Initiative is one of the prevention and early intervention programme sites which was funded through a partnership between government, the Department of Children and Youth Affairs, and the Atlantic Philanthropies. And since 2007 we've been working here in Tala West in a disadvantaged area with a population of about 28,000 people to improve outcomes for children and families. One of the initiatives that we have led since 2007 was a Healthy Schools initiative. So working with 5 of the primary schools here in Tala West and a lot of the specialist services, primary care services in the community, we've been trying to improve the connection between what happens in school and what happens in the family and what happens in the community. As a result of that kind of thinking, we had some meetings with NUIM and UTH, and the suggestion to tailor a master's programme that would meet some of the quite local needs and some of the professional issues that had been identified with people, that might be a very helpful way of utilising the expertise here locally, but joining that up with some of the new evidence around what works for children and families.
I was the course leader for this programme when it started, and it was the second Outreach Masters in this format that NUIM and UTH had done. The first one we had done in collaboration with the Northside Partnership, and then Marion from CDI approached the Education Department and asked us if we would run a similar programme in Tala. I suppose the motivation was that we could, through having a group of teachers from the same area and really from an area of considerable economic disadvantage, that through having that group of teachers we could create a critical mass in that area that would look at the contribution of education to social justice.
Action research has, I suppose, really developed in the last 10 to 15 years in Ireland. It's a very practical form of research that's really focused on the practitioner's own professional practice. So it's deeply embedded in their own contexts. I suppose in many respects it's research informed, very much data driven change within our own practice itself. As part of the work that the students for this particular project undertook, it very much demanded that they look at their own practice, look at the issues that are affecting them and affecting the individuals that they ultimately come into contact in their own day-to-day professional lives. The broad sweep of projects that were undertaken, we see all kinds of really exciting work going on in terms of trying to change the culture around discipline and behaviour within schools, to fostering, I suppose, resilience and emotional well-being of students, projects on literacy, numeracy. So it has a broad range of uses, it's a broad range of applications in education itself.
I chose this particular Masters in Education programme because I felt that it was geared to the teachers in this area and to the children in our care and how we could improve their lives and their experiences in education. I learned that children, when they come to school, they're not the same as children who have already been in school for a number of years. It's also new to them, and to be able to provide them with an environment in which they learn by enjoying themselves and by playing can really help with their language and with their experiences in the community, and it helps form good relationships with their families, which makes for a more effective overall educational experience for children. I really enjoyed returning to study after being in an infant classroom for 10 years. It was really nice to study and to challenge my brain and to learn new things.
When I heard about the action research part of the CDI and NUIM and UTH Masters, I was particularly interested because I felt that there would be some direct learning for me that would be helpful in my work. And then as well as that, I was always interested in the more theoretical side as well. So it married the two very well.
I introduced a model of family learning to the school. That was the first time we had done family learning here. The children and the parents who live in this area have so much that they can tell us about their background, their past, whatever, and that the links that can be built on that will help the children to feel that school and home is not as far apart as they might feel up to now, and therefore it breaks down the boundaries between home and school literacies, because that my target was really to bring literacy, take it out of the classroom and bring home literacies into school.
Well, I really liked the readings that I was directed towards, but I suppose the part that I found the absolute best part for me were the conversations and the interactions that I had with my supervisor about my thesis, because she challenged me, then I went off and did more stuff, or learned more stuff and came back to her, and through the conversations I learned so much. It has shown me that there's room for creativity in my work in school. I suppose a lot of the projects I would have done before this would have been, I would have received them as good ideas from somebody else, and then I would have implemented them as best I could. But this was something that was new, and I found, even though it involved a lot of effort, it was great being able to implement something that I was bringing in for the first time.
The idea came from having a conversation with the school principal when I was discussing some topics for my thesis, and the school principal kind of felt that these were issues that were coming up and that she was seeing in the classroom, children coming in who've had bereavement or a lot of family breakup. So that kind of got me thinking about this could be an area of research that I could look at. It was an opportunity for teachers to discuss and think about incidents that happened in their schools. So it was an opportunity for them to reflect about. There was one particular incident they talked about that had a big impact on both the pupils and on the staff as a whole. So they, through the workshop that was carried out, it was an opportunity for them to actually, as a whole school, discuss it and talk about it, which is something they said they hadn't had an opportunity to do before. So it got them to maybe think about what happened, reflect on how it could have been handled better or differently. Well, I suppose it's kind of getting back to educate, or going back to do the Masters was something I hadn't been out of education for a while, so it's kind of, it'll make me continue on the continuous professional development path, and without rule doing another Masters or PhD, it certainly is woken up those lights for me.
My research was on how sport improves behaviour and motivation in the classroom and around the schools. Generally it was just to help students' behaviour in the school through the help of sport and the characteristics and attributes they use in sport and bring it into the school to help them. Originally the idea came from, I've been one of the teams here for 4 years now in the school, and the idea came from, I had a student who was a really good footballer. He had trials in Nottingham Forest, and he could have went over there, but his attitude and behaviour, they sent him home because of that. So one day I seen him in the corridor, and one of the teachers said move, and he lost the head, and he just goes, get the F away from me and leave me alone. So then he got suspended from that, and then a week later he was on the football pitch and somebody hit him a bad tackle. He got up and didn't react one bit at all. So I just kind of thought there's a connection here that he can behave in the football pitch and keep a cool head, but if somebody says boo to him in the school, that he'd lose the head completely and not be able to cope with it. So that's where the idea originally came from, yeah. The teachers and lecturers were excellent, and Michael, who helped me with my thesis, everybody was so supportive throughout the college. If I had the choice, I'd do it 100% again.
I was looking at ways to motivate students to achieve for wanting to achieve, as opposed to motivating them by prizes. And what I was trying to do was to intrinsically motivate students, so it comes from within as opposed to extrinsic rewards in order to do tasks, like I suppose a carrot on a stick approach. I was trying to move away from that. I was living in Tallaght, I was working in Tallaght. This was a course which was being delivered in this specific area for this specific area that I was working in. I felt that it was very relevant to my work, and I thought that this is something that could help push me on in my own personal experiences within the classroom.
I had spent some time in a school in the States that was a restorative academy, and I kind of was discussing with some senior students, you know, kind of how they were using it, and that the advice really from the training is to think outside the box, and you know, so really we really did think outside the box, and we were thinking, okay, so you know, how can we first of all get buy-in from students? What are the kind of the social topics of issue at the moment and of concern, and then how can we get as many people involved as possible? And it really just spiraled to where it is at the moment. It's really shown me that while I would have been a little bit innovative probably anyway, to give the students a lot more responsibility in the classroom, to put them into kind of situations that they feel nervous about, but you know, it's a controlled nervous, that I know that they can achieve these things, and I know that they can do them. So I definitely incorporate that in the classroom.
My action research project involved creating a professional learning community for teachers in the school to implement restorative practice in their classrooms and to evaluate what impact that had on relationships and their teaching approach. So restorative practice is, well, I believe it's a way of being, you know, a way of speaking, listening, engaging, communicating all day, every day. But it's a way of being that has two aims. So one, it improves relationships, and two, resolves conflicts if they occur. So it involves a set of explicit practices, you know, such as the use of effective statements, you know, as you can see here, our effective statement explaining how one might feel or have been affected by something, effective restorative questions. The outcomes were that there definitely were improvements in relationships. Teachers felt that students were working with them more, and in fact they also were working with students more, you know, there would be more understanding of where they were coming from perhaps. And they noted an improvement, there was a change in work ethic. Teachers felt that maybe the improved work ethic in the class reflected the improvement in relationship. Another outcome was that it was a process, you know, one that is still ongoing. It wasn't just an easy click of the fingers. I guess my engagement with this work has definitely changed or evolved my role here in the school, you know. So I'm no longer a tutor, and I guess I coordinate the restorative practice in the school. I work with other teachers a lot more, going into their classrooms and helping them run restorative circles, for example, or resolve conflicts. I love teaching. I'm really happy here in the school, but I see other possibilities for myself now as well, you know.
The bottom line is we've got 15 people who have a master's who are all working in Tala West. Some of them live in Tala West. They have had the opportunity to engage at a very serious level in thinking and in research and in reflecting on their own practice. And the social action research projects have all delivered in Tala West. They've all had some kind of implementation in Tala West.
Each of the teachers who was involved in the programme produced a piece of work, and I think they can be rightly proud of that piece of work. External examiners were very impressed with the kind of work they did, but that's down to the work that the teachers did and the level of engagement that they put into the programme.
I think the takeaway message here is it's about not what's wrong, not focusing on the deficits in terms of, you know, the difficulties that we face within our professional practice itself. It's very much focused on what's positive, and each of the stories are positive stories. They are stories of hope. They are stories of bringing people with you and ultimately challenging the culture that's there and saying, well, let's not just accept it for what it is. Things do not have to be this way. So I think the takeaway message for this particular, I suppose, programme is that everything is entirely possible.
My experience from the last 2 years has just been phenomenal. I couldn't have scripted what has happened over the last couple of years. So definitely, just if anybody is humming and hawing about doing a master's, I would say go and do it. Just, you know, be the Nike student, just do it.